Good morning from Bologna, Italy. Today we're standing in one of the historical sites here in the city, over 700 years old. It's called Piazza Maggiore.
Yeah, and we're going to be touring around today looking at some of the tourist spots for sure, but maybe a few that a lot of people miss when they come to the city. So we hope you'll stay tuned and join us for our walk today. Welcome to Retire to Rome. I'm LJ.
I'm Russell. We're retired, traveling full-time.
On a budget and loving every minute of it. We're starting off here at the Basilica of San Petronio, one of the largest churches in the entire world. And if you look closely, you'll notice the front of it is only half finished. They actually ran out of money centuries ago. But from what we understand, it makes up for it on the inside. So let's go take a look. Construction started in 1390, and the church was originally planned to be even larger than St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. But that plan didn't sit well with the Pope at the time, so the project was eventually scaled back. Inside the basilica, it's enormous. It's actually the sixth largest church in Europe and stretches over 430 feet long. One of the most fascinating features inside is a giant meridian line built into the floor in the 1600s. At noon each day, sunlight shines through a small hole in the roof and lands exactly on this line, creating one of the largest sundials in the world. Inside this massive church, there are 22 side chapels, many of them decorated by wealthy families from Bologna centuries ago. The church is dedicated to Saint Patronus, the city's patron saint who served as bishop here in the 400s. One of the most interesting relics connected to the basilica is a reliquary containing his head, preserved as a sacred object for centuries. His body, however, is actually kept nearby in the Basilica of Santo Stefano, another beautiful complex often called the Seven Churches, which we'll see later in this video. Another interesting detail, this church wasn't actually built by the Vatican. It was funded by the citizens of Bologna themselves, which was unusual for such a massive cathedral in medieval Europe. I would say the church is full of priceless artifacts and paintings, but one of the most talked about artworks inside is a fresco that was painted in 1410, showing scenes of heaven and hell. Like many medieval paintings, it's incredibly dramatic and detailed. One part of the painting has caused controversy in modern times because it depicts the Prophet Muhammad in hell, which has led to security measures around the basilica. This area actually now you have to pay a fee to actually go up to the painting. We did get a little bit of a video here from a distance, but decided we didn't want to pay the extra charge to go up close. When you exit the church, you actually exit out a door into the Piazza Galvani.
He was famous for being a physicist and physician and made pioneering discoveries in bioelectricity, often called animal electricity. This statue of him was erected in the square in 1879. Interesting fact, right behind us is once was the main building of the University of Bologna.
And this university was it's a little older. It was founded in 1088, so thousands of students have gone through the University of Bologna.
Making it the oldest university in the Western world. What's really interesting are all these crests you see covering the walls. Each one represents a student or a professor who studied here centuries ago. Imagine coming to school here hundreds of years ago. This place has almost 1,000 years of academic history. An interesting fact is students once watched human dissections inside this building. It contains an anatomical theater where medical students studied the human body back in the 1600s.
One of the most unique things about Bologna is all of these covered walkways called porticos. There are more than 38 miles of them running through the city, and in 2021 they were officially added to the UNESCO World Heritage List. They originally started in the Middle Ages when homeowners wanted to expand their upper floors, so they built arches over the sidewalks. Over time, they became one of the defining features of Bologna. Today, they make exploring the city incredibly easy because you can walk for miles through the historic center while staying shaded from the sun or protected from the rain.
Next door to the church, you'll find Bologna City Hall. This building dates back to the 1200s and has been the center of government here for centuries. The tower above it, known as the Torre de Accurcio, has been keeping time over Piazza Maggiore for generations of locals. What's interesting is this building actually grew over time, with different sections added as the city expanded. Today, it still serves as City Hall, making it one of the oldest continually used government buildings in Italy.
Looks like you get to wait in line in City Hall here too.
We kept noticing that there were signs pointing to stairs and an elevator area to go up into the tower. So we decided we'd go up and just see how far we could get without having to pay. So we hopped on the elevator and went up, and to our shock, we were able to go a pretty good distance up the clock tower. And once we got up there, we found a chapel. We found these beautiful fresco paintings on the walls. The ceilings were gorgeous. There's a little museum up there that you actually do have to pay for, so we didn't go into that. I guess the area, if you want to go all the way up the clock tower, you do have to pay for that. And there's, I guess, kind of a balcony on the outside that you can walk around. But we're about to show you the views that we got for free, which I think were well worth the money. This is the little chapel coming up here, and just a little tip here. There are restrooms that you can use while you're up here. Those can be hard to find in Italy, especially ones that you don't have to pay for. So if you're up here, make sure and take maybe a potty break here would be a good idea. But just look at the ceiling here. It's this wood structure. You can tell these frescoes here, a lot of them have, I guess, kind of peeled off or come off the walls, but it was beautiful to see. And this ceiling and this grand entranceway, I suppose you would call it, is pretty magnificent. It's dark in here, and I'm sure the camera doesn't do it justice, but we're about to show you this view, and it's amazing. To us, this just proves that you don't always have to buy a ticket to get a good view. Yes, we could have spent several euro to go on up higher, but for us, this was great. We got to see the church and the other buildings here in the square, and it satisfied what we wanted to do. Again, you can pay for the ticket if you want, but we chose not to. Even leaving and going back down the elevator, you have this view of the other side, and it really gives you an idea of why the city is called the Red City, from the red terracotta tiles that are used on many of the buildings throughout the area.
So if you watched our video from Jerez, Albania, we made a mistake in saying that the Maserati emblem came from the statue there. I guess this is a statue of, is it Neptune? I think we called him Poseidon maybe in Albania, I don't know. But this is Neptune, and his, I think it is, and his little fork trident is what Maserati took their logo from. So it wasn't necessarily the statue in Albania, but this is a pretty famous one here. We're going to show you why here in just a moment. It's kind of an optical illusion that you can see from the backside, so let's walk around. Okay, one interesting thing is where the water is coming out of on these ladies. I think this is supposed to represent fertility. I would say that would be accurate. So if you're standing on this side of the statue, you can kind of see that his thumb gives an optical illusion of something else that might not be
all of his glory out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't leaving a whole lot to the imagination on the front side of it, so I don't know why that's such a big deal, but
That's his hand, ain't it?
yeah, this is his hand, but the other was showing as well.
All right, here they are, the famous two towers of Bologna. And even though they're currently closed, They're still one of the coolest sights in the city. These were built back in the 1100s by powerful families, and they weren't just for defense. They were actually status symbols. The taller your tower, the more wealth and influence your family had. At one point, Bologna had over 100 towers rising above the skyline, almost like a medieval version of skyscrapers. Today, only a handful remain, and these two have become the symbol of the city. Hope I get these names right. The taller one is the Agnelli Tower, and the shorter one, the Guarasenda Tower, and it leans so much they had to shorten it centuries ago to keep it from collapsing. Even without going inside, standing here and looking up, you really get a sense of how competitive and impressive this city once was. It turns out that showing off isn't just a modern thing, it's been going on for centuries. This is Santa Maria della Vita, one of those churches in Bologna that a lot of people walk right past without ever realizing what's inside. It actually dates back to the 1200s and was originally connected to a hospital run by a religious brotherhood. Over the centuries, it's been expanded and rebuilt, which is why you see a mix of architectural styles. Even if you don't spend a lot of time inside, it's still a great example of how much history is packed into just about every corner of Bologna. We mentioned this earlier in the video, but now we're headed over to one of the most unique places in Bologna, the Santo Stefano, often called the Seven Churches. It's not just one church, but a complex of several interconnected buildings that were developed over many centuries. Some parts date all the way back to the early Middle Ages, and the layout was actually designed to resemble the holy sites of Jerusalem. As you walk through, you move from one space to another, courtyards, chapels, and different churches, all with their own style and history. It feels like stepping back in time. This is one of those places where you don't just see history, you kind of experience it as you wander through the different areas.
In the center, you'll notice this old stone well, which has been here for centuries. Wells like this were essential for daily life, providing water for the community and the religious buildings around it. This courtyard is often called Pilate's Courtyard, and it's designed to resemble the place where Pontius Pilate is said to have judged Jesus. Whether or not that's historically accurate, it gives the whole space a deeper meaning.
As you walk through Bologna, it doesn't take long to realize this city is all about food. These narrow streets behind the main square have been home to markets and small shops for hundreds of years. Everywhere you look, there's fresh pasta, cured meats, cheeses, and bakeries. This is really the heart of Bologna's food culture. You'll see locals stopping in for just a few ingredients, grabbing a quick bite, or picking up something fresh for dinner. It seems less like a tourist spot and more like everyday life. And of course, one thing you have to try here is a classic mortadella sandwich, since Bologna is actually where mortadella comes from, also known as bologna in the United States. So we went to the mortadella lab. We're heading over to grab one of the most traditional and budget-friendly options that you can get here in the city, a fresh mortadella sandwich right in the city where it all started.
They're humongous. Here's one of Bologna's coolest little hidden surprises. If you open this tiny window in the wall, you'll see a canal running right through the middle of the city.
Most people don't realize Bologna actually had canals like Venice back in the Middle Ages. They were used to power mills and transport goods. Most of them were covered over as the city grew, but a few secret views like this still remain. We got here at 11 a.m. on a Sunday, and as you can see, the crowd was pretty lengthy. It took us about 20 minutes. So we're not really sure what is the perfect time or when is the perfect day to get here. I'm sure it's probably pretty crowded at any time, but we were lucky enough that there was actually water flowing through today. I know some days there's not, So another thing to keep in mind is if you can't or don't have time to wait in the line, if there is one, that you can walk right across the street and see the exact same view, just not out a little picture window.
Not out of a little window.
Not out of a little window.
Okay, so we have spent the day in Bologna, Italy, and we've had a long day today. We're back at our apartment now. So, what were your thoughts?
I'm pleasantly surprised about Bologna, Italy. It's not what I expected. When I come here, I thought I'm just probably not much to do here. But after being here, I think we could have stayed a couple more days, and we still hadn't seen everything.
Yeah, there's a lot.
A lot of beautiful architecture.
We really just spent most of our time down in the Old Town area, but just riding the bus from Old Town to where we're staying, which is about a 15-minute bus ride. There's so much history to see, even out in this area, that we just don't have time to go and see. But if you've not been to Bologna, or you're thinking, this is just a trip to
a day trip from Rome or something,
you could
like
definitely
that.
spend more time here for sure.
Yeah.
And we've never been to Rome, but this is, a lot of people say, is a great alternative to busy areas like Rome and Milan and Florence and those places. And we have to say that it's everyone has been super friendly. It's been a great place, and the history here is just amazing. Mm-hmm. So we hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit that like and subscribe button. As always, we want to wish you a blessed day and safe travels.